Overnight, Illawarra was battered by 156 millimetres of rain. It was the epicentre of a drought-breaking downpour.
We're 5 or 6 inches away from damage to the house, the front shed, everything in that's gone.
Local residents tried desperately to beat the water rush, but as familiar roads turned to waterways, the force was too much.
I've been going through for bloody years, but the first time I got stuck like that.
I just happened to see a four-wheel drive go through just then, and it was getting blown sideways, and yet people are still trying to go through it.
Backyards flooded, and here on Quinns Lane, south of Illawarra, ironically, this boat was the only thing out of water.
This is Quinns Lake now. It's no longer Quinns Lane, it's Quinns Lake.
Illawarra's SES responded to 119 jobs, mostly for leaking roofs. All roads around Illawarra are now open. As waters rose, tempers flared. Some Illawarra residents are blaming Shoalhaven Council for the flash flooding.
I think what they should do is probably clean the creek out, let the water flow a bit better, get all the rubbish and that out of the creek.
The rain created a magnificent display at Macquarie Pass. In the 24 hours until 9 this morning, Robertson received 139 millimetres, 169 fell at Kiama and 164 mils at Albion Park. Whilst the downpour may have eased for now, the Bureau of Meteorology is predicting more rain tonight and Thursday. Danielle Post, Win News.
In Wollongong, police and the State Emergency Service have responded to hundreds of calls for assistance. Many were from motorists who'd become stranded in floodwater on their way to work.
Torrential rain hit Warilla just after 8 this morning. Water quickly filled drains, spilling out and flooding streets.
I've lived here for a long time. 1973 was the last time there's a creek around the corner, and it flooded in 1973.
Despite the deluge, drivers decided to push on. Some were stopped in their tracks.
Lots of cars just going straight through it and then just breaking down and people pushing them out.
The rain fell across the Illawarra. Emergency services received hundreds of calls for help. The most serious, drivers stranded in rising water.
2 males stuck in the vehicle at Kiama on Spring Creek Road, trying to pass a flooded causeway. Fortunately, the SES turned up in time and parked parallel to the vehicle and retrieved the 2 persons out of it.
Here at Boundary Road in Windang, the floodwater was almost 1 metre deep. Police had to be called in to block off the area, and most of these residents were stuck inside for the day.
Officers were kept busy responding to car accidents.
Luckily, there's been no serious injuries reported from any of the accidents we've attended to today. However, that can change very quickly.
The SES says it's one of the worst weather events to hit the Illawarra since the 1998 floods. With more rain forecast, the message to motorists is to slow down and not push through flooded roads. Matthew Snelson, Win News.
Meantime, outraged Horsley residents were trapped in their own suburb as the early downpour flooded access roads. Frustrated commuters claiming their transport woes have been neglected for decades, while a Wollongong councillor claims unless essential infrastructure is put in place, the rest of the West Dapto development is at risk.
Horsley became a virtual island this morning. Bong Bong, West Dapto and Darks Forest roads were all closed due to flooding, trapping residents.
It brought back memories of 1984. The roads were closed, nowhere to go. I've had hundreds of phone calls this morning from residents in Horsley complaining about not being able to get to work.
School students were stranded inside and teachers outside the suburb. Dapto Public School was forced to send children home with insufficient staff to supervise.
So I've come to pick them up. I can't get through to work, so we're off home.
Wollongong councillors last week vowed to support the multi-million-dollar transport link, which they hope will relieve the commuters' woes. Construction has been earmarked to begin mid-year. Today's floods a timely reminder how vital the project is to the suburb.
Unless the infrastructure's put in place, especially essential infrastructure like flood-free access, if that's not put in first, the rest of the West Dapto development's at risk.
By mid-morning, the roads had cleared, but residents' anger hadn't. Frustrated, they'd been left off the priority list for so long.
We lived here 20 years and we've been told for nearly those 20 years that there's always going to be the overpass at Fowles Road, but it just gets put off all the time.
Oh, it should have happened years ago. It should have happened before they even started developing up here.
Council released a statement today saying it is meeting with the Planning Minister, Frank Sartor, tomorrow about funding the project. Samantha Derrick, Win News.